he was so eloquent in the delivering of the scientific data that the only thing that I probably can add is to maybe explain to you just a little bit more what was the genesis of that formulation. Why did we choose that approach? And I'm sure that everybody in the audience know the benefits of coenzyme Q10, and you heard of supplements, and you go to the natural food products, and shelves are full of coenzyme Q10. Well, problem with it is that only about 0.02% of what you ingest at any given time gets absorbed through GI and finds the way to our body. The rest comes one way and goes the other way. So my concept at that time, when I was developing this technology, I was trying to learn from life. So how does how our cells deal in our body, deal with coenzyme Q10? It is absolutely essential component of every cell. We cannot do without coenzyme Q10. We have to have it. So how is it carried? Of course, some of that can be taken with food. Some food products contain coenzyme Q10. But how does body deal with such insoluble substance, and how is it carrying it around? And it turns out that it actually uses vesicles, which are tiny droplets in the plasma. They are cholesterol-coated vesicles, and that's how cells carry that coenzyme Q10 through the membrane, inserts into the membrane. But inside the cell, inside the milieu of the membrane, it works in partnership with alpha-tocopherol or vitamin E. It is required to regenerate vitamin E. Vitamin E is antioxidant. It gets oxidized and needs to be reduced again to function. Well, both of those components, they are lipid soluble. They work in the milieu of the enzyme, and whereas one is oxidized, the other one is reduced, so they complement each other's function, and that is very critical. Well, however, both of them are lipid soluble. Both, they do not dissolve in water. But to make it easy to absorb, to make it easy to take it, you need to have water-soluble substance. So then I thought, okay, maybe we can derivatize alpha-tocopherol. Derivatize means change it slightly chemically, but in such a way that we would do no harm to vitamin E itself. So we added this sort of a small linker and then molecule at the end of it, which makes now this vitamin E soluble in water. And as the two of them in the membrane work together, coenzyme Q10 and vitamin E, they interact. So it happens that in vitro, they can make the same complex. They can interact with each other to form this, what we call nanomicelle, at a ratio of 2 molecules of derivatized alpha-tocopherol to 1 molecule of coenzyme Q10. And as such, this nanomicelle, these tiny complexes, are perfectly stable, perfectly water soluble. They get and you can put in your tea, you can put it in your water, and you can drink it. And that's where the trick, I believe, it's also that you don't need to eat 1 gram or 2.4 grams of coenzyme Q10 to get the benefit. You can drink few drops of water containing it, and as often as you can, and that's a trick, to get the benefit. So when that was patented, we couldn't find in Canada people with deep enough pockets who would want to commercialize that technology, mostly because the money were required to actually manufacture this derivatized alpha-tocopherol. You need a factory that can produce that. So then the technology was licensed to people across the border. They always have deeper pockets than us. And they have been able to scale up and manufacture to the quantities that it now can be used and to make a formulation at quantities that might be required. Maybe things go a little bit slowly or slower than I would like, but I guess that's the nature of business. What they also have achieved, which is very important for the next step for that technology, that they have achieved what is called GRAS status for that derivatized alpha tocopherol. To give to people, and you modify natural compound in a way, you have to make sure that you're not creating something which is now toxic, has toxicity. So they have applied to FDA and achieved the certification of generally regarded as safe GRAS status. So that component now, coenzyme Q10, it's a natural product, so there's no issue with toxicity. So now we have two components mixed at the right ratio and delivered in very easy, applicable form. So now I have found out that there are Canadian people from Toronto, a company called Biosynth, and the representative of a company are here, and they intend to try and market that product now within the medical community so that we can perform some so we can get some clinical data in order to make it really available. I firmly believe that it works in every situation we tested, in animal models of stroke, of Parkinson's, and I guess the trick is that you have to have a right ratio of the two components and deliver it as frequently as it is. So the animals that we're showing data, they were drinking, we put drops in their water, and they drank it. We did not inject them, we didn't force them to do anything. Whatever was supplemented during their regular drinking, that was sufficient to offset the neurotoxicity of those nasty compounds. So I guess with that, that's all I want to tell you in my address. And if there are any questions, I guess both Professor Pandey and I, we can address them if you still want to. Thank you for your attention.
You stay here.
I think we have time for just a couple of very quick questions, and then we're going to break for lunch. But Professor Pandey and his guests will be here over the lunch. So if there are questions that don't get answered, perhaps in the next few minutes, you could speak directly with Professor Pandey. Is there anyone that did have a quick question? Okay, I'll come over.
Yes. Mic is coming.
Sorry, can I see your hand again? Oh, there it is. Okay.
Thank you. I'm sure a question that's on everyone's mind is what is the availability in Canada, and has it had its trials done here in Canada? I was unclear about that, and because I'm sure that's probably the bottom line for most of the people in this room.
Thank you for asking that question. And actually, that is why I wanted to invite the representatives from Biosynth. And no, there is no clinical trial with this compound in Canada or even in US. It is approved for human consumption, as Dr. Sikorska said, from the FDA. But Tom and Rene are processing now the applications to Health Canada, where they can get it approved for availability in Canada. So yeah, so this is in processing. I think if you want to shed any light, you can do. That is where we are. Yeah.
Sorry, I'll just come with the microphone for you.
Sure. Yeah, I can repeat the question. What did you say? Can it be? Will be covered by ODD. We have no idea. Unless we run a proper clinical trial and it has shown the effect and it is available as a treatment, it will not be approved by Ontario Health System. So it may be available over the counter. If this is successful, that it is working for other symptoms and so on. If it is approved by Health Canada for consumption, it can be available over the counter, but I don't know the complications of what is required to get it approved by OPD. Thank you. Yes.
Sorry, I'll come back.
Can we get it through the states? Can we get it through the states?
It is not
Canada.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I guess this is the same issue that in order to really give to people, we have to have even a small clinical trial, which we didn't do. And we didn't do because clinical trials cost money. And to find the money for that, it's not so simple. So I do believe that one of the applications that we're looking now at, and I guess, may I say that, Tom, Renee, about migraine? So one of the in many of the conditions such like migraines, but also in fibromyalgia, there are reports that there are deficits of coenzyme Q10 in patients who suffer with that condition. And some of the symptoms that manifest themselves clinically are linked to some of these deficiencies. So there has been reports on small number of patients, both for migraine and fibromyalgia, that supplementation of coenzyme Q10 actually improves or offsets some of the clinical symptoms. So the company which is representing here, actually their intention is to begin to provide the doctors who are treating migraine patient, a pain patient, with a formulation in order to get some of the clinical data. There is plenty of anecdotal stories that for coenzyme Q10, but as the formulation, the one that we described here, we do not have a patient's data yet at all. So we believe that it will get into the doctors through based on migraine symptoms and other pain symptoms. Right? Right?
I think we have one, maybe one more question, and then we'll wrap up. I'm coming over. Right?
She's bringing the microphone.
Thank you for all your information today. It's wonderful. But my husband, since he got diagnosed 19 years ago, has been taking vitamin E. And some doctors say it wasn't any good or it was. Now, until this is being approved, if he added a coenzyme CoQ10 with the vitamin E, would that suffice, or would they not go through your system the same?
You see, the problem that we're facing for both for coenzyme Q and vitamin E, that somehow that presumption that the more you take, the better it is, has been propagated. So people taking huge amounts of vitamin E or huge amount of coenzyme Q10, and actually instead of seeing benefits, sometimes they see some adverse effects. And then the story goes, oh yeah, vitamin E is not effective, coenzyme Q10 is not effective, it's just a myth. Or our study shows, and I guess there might be even a clinician here who who knows extremely well that, for example, for Parkinsonian patients, when you get to the point of wearing off effects, when levodopa is not effective, and so you change dosing, right? You change and you start giving it more frequently. And that instead of giving that dose all at once, you give it every so often, every 2 hours, every 3 hours, because that helps. The little bit that gets, it helps. And the same is, I firmly believe, with coenzyme Q10 and vitamin E, that the dosing of small amounts frequently is definitely much better. Now, if you were to add coenzyme Q10 to vitamin E that your husband takes, again, I would say you would have to go down with the dosages for both. And will you get the same effect? I don't know. Because here, as I said, we deliver this, the ratio, it's important how much you give one or the other. So we have that very standard ratio, always constant ratio between one and the other. And that's why I believe that formulation will be beneficial to many, many patients.
He has never changed. He's always taken 400 IUs once a day.
Yes, and I don't think that's harmful. That shouldn't be harmful. That's a standard dose that